The hallway was quiet, the kind of quiet that made every small sound feel louder than it should be. Emma had just finished washing the dishes when she heard it, a low voice coming from the guest room. At first she thought the television was on, but then she realized someone was speaking softly, almost breaking with emotion. It was Daniel. He had been staying in the house since his divorce, trying to rebuild his life in a place that still felt unfamiliar to him. Emma had noticed how he always smiled politely, how he never talked about his pain, how he spent long hours alone. Hearing his voice like this made her heart tighten. She slowed her steps, telling herself to keep walking, telling herself it was none of her business. But the words coming from the room sounded heavy, full of hurt, and she couldn't ignore them. The door was not fully closed. A warm light spilled into the dark hallway. Emma stood still, breathing quietly, listening as Daniel spoke to someone on the phone about how lonely the nights felt, about how the silence made everything worse, about how he missed having someone who understood him. His voice cracked once, and that small sound pushed Emma forward. She gently knocked on the doorframe. Daniel looked up quickly, surprise written across his face. He tried to hide his phone and wipe his eyes, but it was too late. Emma had already seen the sadness he carried so carefully. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I didn't mean to listen. I just heard you, and I wanted to check on you." For a moment, Daniel looked like he might tell her to leave. Then his shoulders dropped, and the wall he always kept up slowly came down. "It's okay," he said quietly. "I guess I wasn't as strong as I thought." Emma stepped into the room, smelled faintly of rain from the open window. The lamp cast a soft glow across the bed where Daniel sat, looking smaller than usual, like a man who had been holding too much inside. "You don't have to be strong all the time," Emma said. Those words seemed to hit him deeply. They sat in silence for a few seconds before Daniel finally spoke again. He told her about how his marriage ended slowly, not with anger, but with distance, how conversations became short, how love faded without either of them noticing. He talked about packing his life into boxes and realizing he didn't know where he truly belonged anymore. Emma listened carefully, her heart aching with every word. She shared her own quiet struggles, how her relationship felt empty, how she often felt unseen, how she smiled for others while feeling lonely inside. Their pain was different, but it sounded the same. Minutes turned into hours. The rain outside grew heavier, tapping against the glass like a steady rhythm. The world outside the room seemed far away. For the first time since Daniel moved in, Emma saw the real him, not the polite guest, not the quiet man who avoided feelings, but someone who was hurting and trying to survive it. And for the first time in years, Daniel felt like someone truly understood him. They laughed softly at small memories, then grew quiet again when the sadness returned. There was comfort in simply being together. Emma noticed how gentle Daniel's voice became when he spoke, how careful he was with his words, how his eyes softened when he looked at her. Daniel noticed how kind her face looked in the lamplight, how she leaned closer without realizing it, how her presence made the room feel less empty. The air slowly changed, not in a loud way, in a quiet, powerful way. Emma felt her heart beat faster. Daniel felt it too. Neither of them spoke about it, but both sensed something new growing between them. Something warm, something confusing, something that made their chests feel tight. Daniel stood up to stretch, then stopped when he realized how close they were. Emma stood too, almost at the same time. Their hands brushed lightly by accident, sending a sudden spark through both of them. "I'm sorry," Daniel said quickly. "It's okay," Emma replied, her voice softer than before. They didn't move apart right away. The rain outside seemed louder now. The room felt smaller. Emma looked up into Daniel's eyes, seeing pain, kindness, and something else she couldn't name but felt strongly. For a moment, she forgot about everything else, about right and wrong, about tomorrow, about the world beyond that room. She only felt him. Daniel swallowed, clearly fighting with himself. "Thank you for staying," he said quietly. "Tonight was really hard." "Glad I did," Emma answered honestly. Silence wrapped around them again, thick and emotional. Emma knew she should leave. She knew staying longer might lead to feelings neither of them were ready for. But her feet wouldn't move. Her heart wouldn't listen. Daniel stepped back, first giving her space, but his eyes still held hers. "I don't want to make things complicated," he said. "Me neither," she whispered. Yet neither of them believed it. Emma finally walked toward the door. Her hand rested on the handle. For a second she paused, feeling something deep inside her chest pull her back. She turned around. Daniel was watching her. Their eyes met one more time, full of words they weren't brave enough to say. Then Emma slowly closed the door behind her, but not all the way. A small opening remained. Light slipped into the hallway. So did everything they were both beginning to feel. That night, Emma lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, hearing the rain, thinking about Daniel's voice, his pain, his eyes. Daniel sat on his bed doing the same, replaying every moment, every word, every glance. Neither of them slept. Both of them knew something had changed. A door had opened. And once opened, hearts rarely stay the same again. The days after that night felt different, as if the house itself had changed. Emma noticed it the moment she walked into the kitchen the next morning and saw a cup of coffee waiting for her, steam rising gently. Daniel stood by the counter, pretending to scroll on his phone, but she could tell he had made it for her. He looked up, nervous for a second, then smiled. "I remembered you like it with cream," he said. Her heart warmed in a way it hadn't in a long time. She thanked him, their fingers almost touching when she took the mug. That small moment stayed with her all day. From then on, they kept finding reasons to be near each other. Daniel would ask if she wanted to watch a movie. Emma would ask if he wanted to go for a walk. They talked about work, dreams, childhood memories, and the small things that made them laugh. Their pain still existed, but it felt lighter when shared. The house that once felt quiet now felt alive with voices and soft laughter. But with comfort came tension. Every look lasted a little longer. Every smile felt deeper. Every silence carried meaning. One evening, Emma was cooking dinner when Daniel leaned against the counter, watching her stir the pot. "You're really good at that," he said. She smiled. "It's just pasta. It still feels like home," he replied. Those words hit her heart home. No one had said that about her cooking before. She suddenly felt seen, valued, needed. Later, while they ate, their knees brushed under the table. Neither moved away. The touch was small but powerful. Emma felt her breath change. Daniel's hand tightened slightly around his fork. After dinner, they cleaned up together. Water splashed as Emma washed plates while Daniel dried them. Their shoulders touched now and then, sending warm feelings through both of them. It felt natural, like they had done this 100 times before. But they hadn't, and that scared Emma. She went to her room that night feeling confused. She knew she cared about Daniel. She knew she enjoyed his company. But she also knew feelings were growing faster than she expected. The next few days were harder. They tried to act normal, but the connection was too strong to ignore. Sometimes Emma would catch Daniel looking at her when he thought she wasn't watching. Sometimes Daniel would notice Emma staring out the window, smiling quietly after they talked. One afternoon, dark clouds rolled in and the sky turned gray. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and soon rain poured down hard. The lights suddenly flickered and went out. Emma gasped. "The power's gone." Daniel laughed softly. "Looks like we're going old school." They found candles in a drawer and placed them around the living room. The soft glow filled the space with warm shadows. Rain beat against the windows, loud and steady. They sat on the couch, a small space between them. The house felt quiet in a peaceful way. This reminds me of when I was a kid, Emma said. Storms always made everything feel slower. Daniel nodded. Yeah, like the world pauses for a moment. They talked about childhood memories, about fear of the dark, about dreams they once had. Daniel shared how he wanted to open his own business someday. Emma talked about wanting to travel but never having the courage. You're braver than you think, Daniel said. She looked at him. I don't feel brave. Still, he said softly, you show up for people that take strength. Her eyes filled with emotion. No one had spoken to her like that in years. The rain grew heavier. The candlelight danced across Daniel's face, making his eyes look warm and kind. Didn't expect to feel okay again, Daniel admitted. After everything, I thought I was broken. Emma swallowed. You're not broken. You're just hurt. He smiled sadly. Meeting you helped more than you know. Silence followed, not uncomfortable, just full. Emma felt something rise in her chest, a mix of hope and fear. What? Thinking, Daniel reached out slowly and brushed his fingers against hers. It was gentle, like he was asking permission. She didn't pull away. Her hands stayed. The warmth traveled through her body. They both froze, realizing what was happening. The moment felt big, real. Emma's heart raced. Daniel's breath grew slower and deeper. For a few seconds, the world outside didn't exist. Then Daniel gently pulled his hand back. I'm sorry, he said quickly. Shouldn't have done that. Emma shook her head. No, it's okay. Just didn't expect it. He stood up, pacing slowly. I don't want to mess things up. I don't want to hurt you. You won't, she said softly, though she wasn't sure. Daniel looked at her with emotion in his eyes. I'm scared because it feels right. That scared her too. They both laughed quietly, nervous and unsure. The power came back on. Suddenly, lights flooding the room, the moment broke. Emma blinked, feeling like she had just woken from a dream. Daniel cleared his throat. Guess the storm's over. Yeah, she said, though her heart was still racing. That night they went to their rooms early. But sleep didn't come easily. Emma kept replaying the touch of his fingers. Daniel kept thinking about her eyes in the candlelight. Neither of them crossed a line, but both knew they were standing right beside one. And once feelings begin, they rarely slow down. The storm outside had passed, but inside the house, something much bigger had begun.